Hi, Dave. I'm here with Dave Boyar. He is the General Manager of ChangeGPS, and we are here at Access All Areas in Melbourne. How are you feeling today, Dave?
I walked into this room before. This beautiful room. We're at the top level of the SB right now. Mr. Felton used to live in this part of the SB hotel and one of the big donors and benefactors, the National Gallery of Victoria. So we are in a special location. I walked in and you were doing an interview with somebody else that was more important than me, that got preference. And I sat in one of these big comfy Chesterfield chairs and Trent McLaren looked around at me and he just saw the big exhale. I'm feeling pretty good.
So I can easily say then this might be one of your most exciting days for 2024 because, Dave, what I understand is that this was just an idea, just started just as a conversation, and now we're here. How has the expectations of that first conversation come to what you see today?
I've got a fair amount of belief in my own abilities, but there is nothing quite like aiming at something new and ambitious and pulling it off. Nothing, and this applies to anyone in their life who's trying to get their children to do something, is trying to learn a new hobby or a new skill, try to do something different in their accounting practice even. There is a sensational feeling when you take a big bet and you back people around you and you deliver something very unique. And that's the situation where they're interviewing right now, literally seconds after it's finished. I've come off the stage of the final session. I've got myself a Dave and Tim cocktail. We had our big team photo and now we're having a chat. So I might need a bit of time to decompress all of that. But I never really struggled with big ideas. This is actually the fourth time I've had a crack at doing an event like this. The hard part's execution in pretty much everything that everybody tries to do in their lives. I am blessed to have a phenomenal team. When we first started coming with this concept and Trent and I were spitballing ideas, and literally I was pacing around the garden one night and I said, mate, what about the prints, about the SB? And he goes, I reckon you've nailed it. And that was it. And then Trent was great at the start and coming up with the concept. But then over to our operational team, Kim Morley in ChangeGPS marketing, Lara Jones in operations. And then the last couple of weeks, the full size and scope of the Access family came in. And the support and the energy that they brought to make today go, I'm not aware of a single issue that happened today. At a venue, a 145-year-old pub with pokey rooms and narrow staircases and multiple restaurants and different dining sessions and 40 different speakers and rooms that filled and got sold out. I don't know a single problem that we had. So it's a credit to everyone that's been involved.
So, Dave, this is a pretty important event for you, but as you have a big job outside of this one event. And we heard from Kerry this morning that 68% of accountants are saying their job is harder now than at the start of their career. What is harder about your job now than it was at the start of your career?
At the start of my career?
Correct.
Well, everybody's job changes and innovates. And if it didn't, we'd probably get bored and we'd probably start resenting ourselves and probably make some bad decisions somewhere else in our lives. So keeping refreshed is pretty different. My career's had a few innovations. Last night I was out for dinner with some of the big firms that Access Group looked after, and Heather Dyke was there. And Heather Dyke was a director at Moore Stevens when I did my CA. And she remembers just how bad I was at putting together a set of financial accounts, but how much I loved being in front of clients. The biggest change that's happened now is the ability for accountants to spend more time in front of clients and talk to them about things outside of core compliance, which they've always done, but now they get to do it in a bit of a different framework. I think it's been fantastic. My career's I've made huge bets on myself. I took a pay cut to leave National Australia Bank and go out and become a virtual CFO. I took a risk when I stopped being an employee as a virtual CFO and started my own virtual CFO practice. I took a risk when I unwound that practice and sold part of it off and unwound the franchise part and joined Tim at ChangeGPS. And I think having a bit of belief in your own ability, surrounding yourself with people that say, yeah, you can go for this and you're going to get there. It doesn't really matter what the change is. You're going to find a way to make your way through it and make the most out of it.
So you've just described quite a big journey through your career and all the things that you've been able to do. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. And so now in your career and in a role that looks after a lot of people and a lot of functions, and now being a part of the Access Group and looking back at that journey, what would you change?
There's thousands of things I would have changed because hindsight's ridiculous. We don't have it. It's not real. There's thousands of things I could have done to make my life easier and taken friction out and better decisions I could have made. ChangeGPS had explosive growth and me and Tim would go out for lunch together. Timothy Munro, the founder, for those who are watching maybe don't know who he is. And we just sit there and I'd present, here's what our org structure needs to look like. Here's the position description of the next 3 hires. We had no idea what we were doing. None. And you can spend as much time Googling and do as much training as you want. You have to make these things specific for the business that you want to have. So there's a lot that we would have done differently, but there's a hell of a lot that we got right. And I don't really go to bed thinking about the things I could have done better. I try to go to bed thinking about the things that worked well. Not always great at that. And Trent usually gets a call when the things aren't going well, just to be one of those people that can prop me back up.
And so in all of that, for all the accountants listening, you were an accountant once upon a time who...
Well, I say
it's changed.
Accountant. I'm still a very proud accountant. The fact that I'm not in public practice shouldn't matter, because part of the beauty of the CA designation is it teaches you the language of business, and you can go on to do so much more than be a public practicing accountant. But I definitely have more than a soft spot for public practicing accountants. I think they're critical for Australia, and they've provided me with a wonderful life through my dad and through what I was able to do early in my career.
And with those learnings, what would you share? What would be the advice that you would share to accountants at the moment?
Unless you take control of what's happening to you, it's never going to get better. I've been in many uncomfortable situations in my career. I've had bosses that I thought had it in for me. I've made horrendous mistakes that were really hard to wind back from, and I've had to own up to. Unless I took responsibility for any of those bad things and then tried to work out how I'm going to create options for myself to solve it, I never would have got anywhere. I did something really bad in one of my roles once that maybe one day I'll talk about publicly. But I was literally sitting there thinking, could I just go be a farmer? Could I just give all of my aspirations up and just go and have a really quiet life? Of course, it's more expensive to be a farmer now than it is to live in the suburbs, but I had those moments. And until the moments that I took responsibility for the situation I was in and stopped blaming somebody else, I don't think I ever would have got better out of that. So that's the advice to everyone. And it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're an employee and you're not happy with your manager, if you're a partner and you're not happy with the way your clients treat you or the type of work that you're doing, you have to be in charge of what you're going to do next. The good thing about an event like Access All Areas is there's 40 speakers here who are all doing different things in their practice. And I reckon one of them is going to have a similar situation. Very, very rare in anyone's career that they need to deal with something that no one else has ever dealt with before. But if we isolate ourselves and we don't share, we don't talk, we don't surround ourselves with good people, you think, how the hell am I going to solve this by myself? Very rare do you need to solve it by yourself. And part of Access All Areas was about bringing these big communities together that Access has and Handysoft has and APS has and ChangeGPS has and some of our sponsors have, and saying, hey, let's say like right now underneath us, it is so loud, people talking. That's not normal accounting conference vibes. And that's the energy that we wanted to try to say to people, have a chat, be responsible and take action for what you want to do next in your practice and in your life.
Change.
Very uplifting and motivational, isn't it? You've really got me at a moment.
I expect nothing less from you, Dave. Always. ChangeGPS, take me to November 2025. It's been big changes for ChangeGPS coming into the Access Group. What does it look like for next year? 12 months, tell me.
I've been really careful to share what my experience has been coming into the Access Group. You go from being this scale-up company where you are in complete control of everything and it's top-down communication and you earn the respect of your team and they do what they say you're going to do and you're in complete control. I ran the whole process as part of the acquisition, and then Tim was just absolutely wonderful throughout that. But then you get to the big company that you've just been acquired by, and the big company knows what they're doing, and they're sympathetic and they're empathetic and they do everything they can to try to help. But there's a realization that things are going to change inside your business, and there's some things you need to push back on really hard and fight for, and some things that you need to change. And I don't think any business knows what the things are to fight for in their business until they're challenged with that. Until you actually have to defend certain things and put up a fight for it, you wouldn't waste your energy. But we've had to do that at some points throughout the year. And the result is we're right at the end of integration into Access. So all of our systems, all of our data, all of our processes, and we're finished with that. We're about to finish a major investment in the ChangeGPS product, our V2 interface and V2 experience, which is going to massively reduce the amount of time it takes to deliver advice reports, enable us to deliver a lot of functionality. The product's going to have the Access Evo button in, so you're going to be able to start querying ChangeGPS data together with your Access data. It's going to be huge product innovations. But your question was, where's ChangeGPS going to be? Really had my eyes opened up about how many different types of accountants there are since joining the Access Group. I think I was in a little bit of I was in a silo and I was in an echo chamber inside that silo. but it is a big world, and there are so many different cohorts and types of accountants, and it's great that Access to All Areas brought so many different ones together. But we're going to start looking at ChangeGPS and say, how do we make this really specific to the type of firm and lifestyle you want, and how are we going to make ChangeGPS accessible for everyone? So there's going to be new bundles for ChangeGPS. There's going to be options for big firms, options for small firms. There's going to be different ways to access different support models for us. We're currently running a trial on ChangeGPS coaching, just 13 firms involved in that trial as well. We want to give that love and support into firms to help them on their change journey and leverage off the experience we've got in our network, which is pretty exciting. And I think the big thing that I need to stop doing is to stop stressing about hitting numbers every single month. I've fallen into that. I think it's critical. But the reason ChangeGPS was successful was we were worried about making the right decision today. And then we hit the number in 60 days' time. And I think we've become a bit reactive to that. And that's because of me and my leadership. So that's something I'm going to change internally at ChangeGPS. And we want to get back to but we want to be a workplace where everyone's very proud of their work and having a lot of fun. And now that we really feel like we're part of the Access Group, everyone at ChangeGPS is wearing the Access Blacks today. And I think we really feel like we're part of the Access Group. And I think that's going to benefit what we do for our members and what we can do for the broader accounting community.
Dave, the most important question. This is 2024, the first ever Access All Areas in Australia. We're in Melbourne at the ESPY. Where are we going to be in 2025? Where's Access All Areas?
Access All Areas in 2025 is going to be everywhere. There is no reason we wouldn't want to open this up to as many people as we possibly can. I don't know if you've been able to capture the footage, but the energy that's in this place is infectious. And if anyone's following on social media or seeing emails or here, you're just not getting the experience. So we need to make sure we can get this everywhere.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your time, Dave.
Thank you, Lise.